Well, hello, friends. Welcome to Community Podcast. I'm so excited that you are with us. I'm so excited that you have joined us. So, as you can see, that Community Podcast is back with a bang, and we're trying to be able to give you as many videos and information as much as we can. So we're going to be trying to at least release videos 3 times a week. Previously, we used to do it twice, maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays. But now we want to be able to, do it on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays or Friday, one of the two. But other than that, just want to be able to thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and comment down below. I know some of the things that we talk about, you don't understand them. So we just want to be able to encourage you to ask questions, talk to us on our comments below. My wife and I are waiting to just hear from you and be able to talk to you. So I watched this this debate or conversation rather between Ricky from Church Reality Check or Christian Reality Check talking to Abba. I think Abba is from Unapologetically. I'm not sure. But their conversation got heated, and I understand why it got heated. A lot of people they think that Christianity is out to destroy their traditions, their views, and so forth. And so they get so emotional when it comes to asking questions. And they end up, being angry, angry at Jesus Christ, angry at Christianity, angry at the people that are following Christianity. So there are a couple of things that I saw when watching that video, that podcast, that conversation, and I just want to be able to talk about 5 things, right? The first thing that we're going to look into is Abba says that the Bible is stories. Secondly, he spoke about church fathers, and also Catholic Church. He also spoke about the canon of the Bible, the canonizing of the Bible. So who wrote the Bible? That's the famous question that people have, but he spoke about the canon of the Bible, right? Speaking about manuscript and so forth. And also he spoke about who actually formed doctrine. And in one of these, later on in his video, not the concluding part, but later on his video, he spoke about that Christianity is a baby, compared to all these other view of lives according to other cultural perspectives. He says that every culture in the world has a spiritual expression of what they believe. So he says that Christianity, though, when it comes as an adopted son, it acts like it's the main religion. So I want to be able to address all those 5 things. But before we do, check this out.
When the two become one, that is God. No. Amakosa were not there. Jesus says specifically, I am sent to the lost children of Israel. I want a religion made this thing a whole spiritual, alhamdulillah, kumbaya thing. Ukuti Jesus died for us. No.
It puts us under.
The Bhagavad Gita addresses the Hindus as men. The Taoist philosophy, the Bible of the Taoists, the Tao Te Ching that was written by Confucius, it relates to the Chinese and their pigs in the sky and their tortoises in the sky and their lotuses in the sky and their 5-element mountains and their jade emperors.
You're validating what I'm saying.
Listen, there is no jade emperor in the Bible. There is no 5-element mountain in the Bible. There is no yin and yang double fish swimming in the pond of wisdom in the Bible. So every book is related to its people specifically. It's culture-based out. Listen, the Bible is only related to the people who live that culture.
Okay.
That's our Bible.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. The Hindus have the Bhagavad Gita. That's their Bible.
Okay.
The Chinese have the Tao Te Ching. That's their Bible. Mm-hmm. The Scandinavians have the histories of Ragnarok, of Odin and Thor, and all of that's their thing. That's their religion. Okay. The Greeks have the Oedipus, and they've got Homer. That's their religion. Right? Christianity somehow believes it's the golden boy of all spirituality. Why?
So as you can see, the conversation got a bit heated, but I understand. We have conversations like this with people on a regular, right? But anywho, just to speak about on the things that he mentions that I said I want to talk about. First of all, he says the Bible is stories, right? So when you look into the Bible, you will realize that actually the Bible was written according to was written by people like Paul, people like Isaiah, people like Moses. They write according to what they experienced, right? So Moses saw the burning bush and he writes about his experience of God at the burning bush. So you can say that the Bible is stories, but then when you use the word stories, don't say that it's hokum. It's hokum. It's nothing. It's made up things. It's not made up things. It's stories that are experienced about the same God. And out of that, people were able to formulate a dogma. So that's why we see the religion of the Jews. Then after that, we see Christianity being birthed because of these experiences. And Jesus, when he comes, and he comes to refute against the traditions that we have built, right? And he says that I came as a completion. So therefore, it's not just stories. It's not nothing. These are experiences of people who have experienced God in their particular time. And now their stories are supposed to stretch throughout centuries and throughout centuries, for lack of a better word, so that it can reach people who don't know. And over the years, there were many religions that were introduced, Muslim, all these other things that were introduced, and views as well. And now people begin to think in themselves that their religion supersedes all other else. But when you look in history, you begin to realize that, wait a minute, at one point, there was something that God has created, and God was using a particular nation so that he can reach other people. So God could have touched all other cultures in the world. But then here's a problem with that. We will still have different views of who God is. So God needed to touch a particular culture, a particular people, so that those people can go and tell people that, hey, we have experienced and have seen God. And this is what he came to do. And now when you look at your traditions and look at what you are doing in your cults and traditions and cultures and so forth, you begin to realize that, we've been chasing after the same God. So therefore, I need to be able to be converted to Christianity so that I can be able to see and understand this God and be able to understand this religion. So it's not just hokum. It's not just stories that are made up. These are experiences of people. So now he spoke as well about church fathers, right? And what he said, well, one of the things that he said, he spoke about Catholicism. So he says that Catholic is basically Peter, the Peters, the apostles, they were under Catholic, and that is wrong. That is heresy, right? That is heresy. Catholicism or Catholic Church was formed later. It was formed later, but things like dogma, they were given by Jesus. When we look at the book of Acts chapter 2, if I'm not mistaken, they were given by Jesus. That's why the Bible says they devoted to the teachings of the apostles. So the doctrine was given by Jesus to the apostles. So we live according to the teachings of the apostles. It doesn't matter what the other church fathers say or what they believe, but we are living according to the teachings of the apostles. So who are these church fathers, right? So when we look in history, when we talk about church fathers, we talk about people who came after we have early church fathers, we have church fathers, right? And we need to be able to put a distinction between the two. So early church fathers, we're talking about the likes of Polycarp, because Polycarp did actually play a role in dogma. He played a role in making us understand that Jesus is the Son of God. He played a role in dogma, that Jesus is the Son of God. He came to give us eternal life, and whoever believes in him will have that eternal life. So he played a significant role in the development of dogma, particularly by faithfully preserving and transmitting the teachings of the apostles. Remember that he had a relationship with Apostle John. So we need to be able to understand that, and possibly, I think actually that John was one of the last ones who died. So he had a relationship with that. So he carried those teachings forth, right? So we need to be able to understand that. And as well, when we talk about church fathers, drawing it a bit further to, sorry, I'm just scrolling through my notes as well. When we talk about church fathers, we're talking about people like Irenaeus, we're talking about Athanasius, we're talking about Alexandra, people that played a role in basically helping us understand, for instance, the hypostatic union, the Immaculate Conception, all those things, that doctrine, they made it more clearer. But our teachings are foundationed on the teachings of the apostles. They taught all these things, but they didn't give them names like the Trinity. They didn't give them names like the hypostatic union. They didn't give them names like the Immaculate Conception. So it's important for us to be able to realize that, the church fathers and Catholics, those are two different people. Though church fathers in a later stage, I'm talking maybe 300 after Christ, 300 years, we're talking about maybe people that played a role in the councils as well. Well, not precisely church fathers, but they played a role in the council to say that this is what you need to believe about Jesus Christ. So it stretches even further. Catholic Church played a role, yes, in some of the things, but then when you look in dogma, their role was pretty minor as opposed to what the apostles did. That's why we live according to the teachings of the apostles. I hope that you understand that, and when we talk about a Catholic Church, the word Catholic Church, we speak about a universal church. So in the beginning, we used to believe in the same things, right? But as time went on, especially in this millennium, people are believing in homosexuality, and those things are not in the Bible. So now we need to be able to differentiate between the two. That's why we're saying that Catholic Church is one of the biggest cults, because they have deviated from teaching the true gospel of Jesus Christ to, thinking that they are the main people who carry dogma and they can change it as they see fit. They also believe that Apostle Peter, is one of the first popes, and which is doctrinally false. So we need to be able to understand that they played a minor role. Yes, they played a minor role. But they also played a role when we talk about the canonizing of the Bible. They played a role in the canonizing of the Bible. So they prepared a series of councils and decrees. So, we're talking about the council in Rome, for instance, that was overseen by Pope Damascus the First, I think. Also, we're talking about Synod of Hippo, a council of bishops, including Augustine of Hippo. We're talking about the Catholic, Council of Trent, which the Council of Trent normally canonized all the traditional books of the Bible. So, they played a role. That's why we have what we call the Catholic Bible. That's why we have another word was the Catholic canonized Bible, if I'm not mistaken. So that's, we need to be able to understand that they played a role in the canon of the Bible, but they didn't write the Bible. Like I've mentioned some of the meetings that they have in Rome, in Hippo, in Carthage, in Florence, and so forth, but they didn't actually write the Bible. The Bible was written by people who experienced God firsthand. For instance, when we look at the apostles, when we look at the Apostle Peter, Apostle John, they experienced Jesus. When we look at who's this guy? John. When he wrote the book of John, when we look at 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, when we look at Peter, when we wrote the book of Peter, when we look at John the apostle, before he died in Revelations, they experienced Jesus. So that's what we need to be able to comprehend and understand when it comes to the canon of the Bible and who wrote the Bible. The Bible was not written by us. It was not written by Catholics. It was not written by people in our millennium, because there are so many versions. People think that the Bible was written by us. No, the Bible was written by people who experienced God firsthand, and we played a role in putting it together. And by we, I mean that in history, Catholic Church, they put it together. They canonized the Bible, but they are not the only ones. That's why we have the 39 articles. That's why we have Westminster Confessions of Faith and the Synod of Jerusalem. That's why we have all these other things. That the oldest Bible in Ethiopia. Those people played a role in the canonizing of the Bible. So when we study actually apologetics, and Ricky spoke about it, apologetics is the study of defending one's religion. For instance, the study of defending Christianity. Apparently there's apologetics for the Jews, apologetics for Muslims. I saw that online at one point. But apologetics is the study of defending Christianity, right? So when we study apologetics, one of the things that we talk about is who formed doctrine. So we need to be able to understand you might have put together the Bible. You might have canonized the Bible. Ne? Canonizing the Bible means putting it together, right? Choosing what needs to go into the Bible and what is not supposed to go into the Bible. So, and the main purpose of the canonizing of the Bible is to be soteriological. The Bible needs to be soteriological. So from Genesis to Revelation, it needs to point to Christ's salvation, the salvation that is brought to us by Christ, showing us that indeed Jesus came so that we can have eternal life, right? So that's the purpose of the canonizing of the Bible. So when it comes to the issue of dogma, you need to be able, we don't look at who canonized the Bible. No, those people have nothing to do with the dogma. We look at the people who sat down and discussed what this means, right? And we look at the Nicene Creed, when we establish the hypostatic union and the divinity of Jesus Christ. We look at all those things, and also we look at what the apostles also taught, because the apostles taught that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And they taught that everyone else is included. Remember when we look at the book of Peter, especially I think 1 Peter chapter 1, he speaks to the Gentiles and he says that you are included. And not only are you included, but this message of Jesus Christ is meant to be your burden now to be able to give to the world. You carry this burden and you give it to the world. So we need to be able to understand that. So there is a difference between people who put together the Bible and people who formed doctrine. So people who formed doctrine are the apostles and the prophets. So the apostles and the prophets are the ones that formed doctrine, and people that helped us understand doctrine are people who engaged in councils of Nicene and so forth, and other councils. There are other councils. So you need to be able to understand that. So in those councils, they now discuss what I spoke about, the hypostatic union, the immaculate conception, the divinity of Jesus Christ, all those things. And those things, they form the dogma that we are preaching today. So the canonizing of the Bible, who wrote the Bible, and who formed the Bible, they don't go hand in hand. They are separate things, right? They are separate things. Who wrote the Bible? The people who wrote the Bible are the people who experienced God firsthand. The Pauls, the Johns, the Peters, the prophets in the Old Testament, right? And the people who canonized the Bible, they just put together what those guys have experienced, right? And the people who formed doctrine, yes, the doctrine was formed by the apostles and the prophets, the people who experienced God and heard God and experienced Jesus Christ firsthand. But there are people as well that come later now that help us understand the key things like Trinity and so forth, right? And the hypostatic unions and so forth. So I needed you to understand that because it's important, right? Because people feel like, which brings me to this point, he says that every culture in the world has a spiritual experience of what they believe. People feel like Christianity came as a bully to come and bully people into submission, to come and bully people into believing what we believe. And other people go as far as to say that, Christianity is a white man's religion. But when you look back in those times, white people were not even close to Israel or even to the Jews, meaning that they were predominantly black. Right, one man released, I think it was a president of Egypt, or who was it in Egypt, who said that these people, when they left black, but now they all of a sudden they white. So you need to be able to understand, putting race aside, when Jesus came, he came to a minority race, yes, and which was black people, and black people have established a lot of things at that time. So we have established maybe your science, we have established a lot of things that we were beginning to develop as time went on, like astrology, and trying to figure some things out going forward, because those things have started already when Christ came, but that is for historical debate for another day. But other than that, when Jesus came, he came so that he can be able to help us understand that the world has different religions, and those religions, they make you desire God. We are all in constant pursuit of God. Whether you are Zulu, you are Pedi, you are Tswana, you are Shona, it doesn't matter where you come from. But even if you are Chinese or Asian or whatever, we are in constant, our traditions and cultures are in constant pursuit of the divine, which is God, the creator of heaven and earth, right? So now Jesus comes and he says that you have been looking in the wrong places. So stop looking in the wrong places and look to me, and I will direct you where you are supposed to be. So that's why John says that for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. So we need to be able to understand that the purpose of Jesus Christ coming was to be able to help us understand that these spiritual expressions that we have are false. So we need to be able to look to him. That's the teaching, So he's not, Christianity is not a bully. Christianity is actually a path to show you where you need to be able to go. So people look at it as a white man's tool used for colonization and mistreating and treating people badly and putting them into submission and seeing white people as gods and so forth. I don't argue the colonization, but what we are arguing is the fact that Jesus Christ came, and when he came, he gave his life, he died on the cross so that we may be able to have a doorway to the ultimate God, the creator of heaven and earth. So that's the whole point of all of this. So we need to be able to realize, one of the things that I wanted to end with is the story of Polycarp. Polycarp was placed, he was in the market, right? And as he was in the market, he was placed in a position of, he was arrested and placed in a position of, choosing whether to go with the world or die, right? And they said to him, say, away with the heathens. And he said, away with the heathens. But they thought that he meant Christians, because when they said heathens, they meant Christians. So after that, he said away with the heathens. Then they said, deny Jesus Christ, or die, and he said, how can I deny the one who never left me nor forsaken me from the beginning? So one thing that we need to be able to understand, and they actually tried to burn him at stake, but they failed. He didn't burn, and they ended up decapitating him, if I'm not mistaken. So one thing that I want us to be able to understand is that we were created for with a longing for God. Every person in the world. So whether you are Zulu, whether you are Shona, whether you are American, whether you are, it doesn't matter where you come from. We were created with a longing for one God, for the creator of heaven and earth. So we created all these traditions and cultures so that we can be able to come closer to God, and now that Jesus has come, we now say that no, you cannot be the one because our traditions are the one. And now Jesus fights against that, because now when you look at what traditions do, is that they create segregation. They do create segregation. I heard one testimony of a guy saying that I didn't go to the mountain and my son went to the mountain and he came back. When he came back, he acted like he was the father of the house and he had to fight with him and kick him out of the house. Whether we like it or not, people say that Christianity creates segregation, it creates separation. When you look into tradition, it does create separation, even in the household, even in marriages. And people think that those things are normal because those are things that are passed down by our ancestors, the teachings that were passed down by our ancestors. But here is Jesus coming to you and says that enough is enough. It's time for you to come. So we need to be able to understand that Jesus came as a completion. If you want to live by your tradition and culture, we're not going to force you, but we need to be able to understand. That's why Christianity doesn't fight. We don't fight with people and we don't force people, because we are taught to love, we are taught to have peace. But then, when you look at religions like Muslims or Islam, they kill. If you don't believe what they believe and you are in their area, they kill. But Christianity comes and says that God came so that you can have peace, so that you can have love, so that you can have joy. But all these traditions and so forth, they destroy. So our teaching is based on that Jesus came to give you life and life eternal. So thank you so much for joining us. Please write on the comments below, have a conversation with us. Let's talk about what you think about what the conversation that Abba had and the things that we spoke about today. If you feel like I was all over the place, sorry, maybe I was a bit emotional, but I hope that you understand all the things that we spoke about. May God bless you and be with you. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit that comment button, and let's grow together.